If you're queer, Nigerian, and have ever felt unsure about your sexual and reproductive health right needs, come make I give you small tea. This is the podcast for you. So grab your friends or your headphones and listen, because I did bring you people who are going to help you SabiSRH. This is the SabiSRH podcast, brought to you by the Initiative for Equality. Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the SabiSRH podcast, where we dive deep into sexual and reproductive health right needs and issues facing queer people living in Nigeria. My name is Fefe and I'm super excited to be hosting this. And even more exciting is that I'm having this conversation with people who are at the forefront in advancing sexual and reproductive health rights for queer people living in Nigeria. Without further ado, I'd like you to meet my guest. They're looking so good. We have like a white and black affair. So I think I'm going to start from that other end and we'll introduce ourselves, your name, your pronouns, and what you do.
All right. Hi, Faye. I'm Yede Daisy Jones. My pronouns are he, him. I'm the Research Monitoring and Evaluations Associate at TIERS.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Judy. My pronouns are she, her, sometimes unicorn. And I'm a peer educator for sexual and reproductive health and rights. And I'm an LGBTQI activist as well.
Welcome, Judy.
Thank you. My name is Linda. I'm the Medical Laboratory Scientist at TIERS.
Thank you. It's so good to have you guys join us on the podcast today. So one of the things that we did when we started pre-production and research was to ensure that the conversations we have on the podcast are about things that people want to know. And so what I did was get questions or reflections and topics from people, and that's going to be the basis of our conversation. I have pulled one of that out, and I'm going to read it so that all of us can hear it, and then we will just have a conversation about it.
Okay.
Alrighty, then. This one says, "Hello, Sabi Gang." How cool is that?
Okay.
Hello, Sabi Gang. I recently began helping my niece prepare for her final exams in high school, and I've come to realize that inclusive sexual health education is still missing from mainstream curricula, leaving queer individuals especially with significant gaps in their understanding of their own bodies and health needs. This was me sometime in my life, and it's heartbreaking that this still continues, especially because this knowledge is very vital in formative years. Does this ever end? How do we create a new reality? I think that this is very interesting to talk about here. Yeah. Today, we will discuss the impacts of this educational void in terms of sexual and reproductive health rights. And then we'll also look at strategies that we would follow to help us to access accurate and affirming sexual health information. So I'm going to start with you, Judy. Yeah. You work as a peer educator. A lot of your work involves working with people and educating them and stuff. But I like to think that this has not always been that way. Mm-hmm. So let's take it back. In terms of your education, what was the lack in terms of sexual and reproductive health information?
Okay, thank you. I think for me, it didn't have to do with me per se. I would always be in spaces where we're having conversations. And from the conversations that we have, I noticed that a lot of questions that the people would ask, they seemed really mundane, and it was like a general question, but they really didn't have answers for it. But luckily for me, I grew up with sisters, right? So they would always have those conversations about sex, your body, and how don't let them touch you here and all of that. So I was lucky enough to have people that I could go to in my house to ask questions. Like, these are questions that have been asked outside and I don't have an answer for it. And they'll be like, okay, probably say this. Like somebody asking questions about pregnancy and saying, oh, the boy touched my hand. Am I pregnant? So it was very funny because I had those answers from my house because I had people I could ask, right? So for me, it started with being in spaces where people were always asking questions. And you know, when you're around your peers, everybody's trying to form, I'm grown. Mm-hmm. I have the answer. So for me, I think it was more like trying to show off because I felt like I had answers. So when they would ask those questions, I'll be like, excuse me, I have the answer for you. Because then I already asked my sisters, and then I started reading a lot of books because my sisters had books Well, I wasn't supposed to be reading them at that time, but well, the books were there, so I was reading them. So I was already learning about sex and orgasm, and those were like words that were like when I would go to school and I'm talking to my friends and I could explain to them how orgasm work and how your body should feel. So for me, I think that was how it started, being around spaces where people were asking questions that I felt like I had the answers to.
I'm so glad that you had that kind of experience, because that's not the same for a lot of people. I remember that the only time I had like any conversation or topics regarding sexual health, or maybe not even sexual health, just yourself, was like biology of SS2. And then they teach reproduction. Everyone is super excited. But one thing that also fails to do is really answer the burning questions that you have.
Yeah.
So I'm going to speak with you, Linda, here. Are there any specific topics that you think is lacking when it comes to the curriculum?
Rachel, thank you for that question. Personally, I would say yes, because somebody like when I started my menstruation in just 3, I didn't have any knowledge about it at all. A pair had to be the one to teach me what to do, what to change, and whatever the process of menstruation. And that's like I was in just 3. So I feel like topics like that will lead up to the topic of sex. Because if you don't even know the basic anatomy of your body, then how are we going to start the conversation of sex and all that thing? So I feel like our curriculum is actually very lucky when it comes to explaining what the body is, how to use your body, what to do and what not to do. So that you have this power to actually know or make good decisions about sex.
When we have more information, we definitely have the power to make great decisions. But when we speak of this experience, I'm thinking of it from the perspective of using one size fits all, because everybody assumes that everyone in your class is heterosexual.
Yes.
They have the same questions to ask and all of those. I'm going to come to you, Odesi. Yeah. When you take a good look at our curriculum in Nigeria, we don't even have comprehensive sexual education for starters. And then even if there's something that seemingly looks like it is not available for LGBTQ plus people. So I'm going to ask you, how were you able, as a queer person, able to navigate your sexual health and other experiences?
Okay, so for me, I think that growing up, I come from a very religious background, and things like sex there was a lot of secrecy attached to it. So you can't even talk about it at home, much less now say that you're queer, which will just even make it a whole lot worse. So just go with the flow of, it's the biology says it's a guy and a girl, and it's what it is. So you have to even imbibe that knowledge to yourself, allow it to stay with you, because you think that that is what is supposed to be. So I feel that, when it comes to queer persons in Lagos, Nigeria, there has not been any form of education as regards to their sexual health, right? It's just what you hear on the internet, what you see on TV, and that is what you have access to. And that is what I had access to, because I had to go and learn about a whole lot of things when I was tired of the whole religious drama and everything.
So all of that drama in trying to find a way to navigate your sexual health, how did it make you feel?
Oh, well, for me, I just kind of went to the story because I wanted to gain more knowledge about it. I wasn't particularly trying to feel a certain way about it. It was for my benefits, for me to know how this would really affect me, because, you don't want to make decisions that, ruin your life and everything. So it was, for me, it was a conscious effort that I had to take to go into this space, learn, volunteer, work in this space, not just for the community, but for myself as well as a person.
It's a good thing that you have to navigate it that way. For a lot of people, this affects their mental health and also their self-esteem. And I just want you to talk a lot more about it later, because you do the work, you interface with all these people. How exactly does this gap impact the mental health, self-esteem of especially young people?
Okay, so I guess where we get where most of our clients are quite people, they usually come in with questions. They be like, "This is something that's at this age you should
already know."
But they are coming, they're asking, and you have to actually sit down and walk with them through this journey of, is this wrong? Is this right? What should I do if I'm exposed or if something happens? So these are some of the things we try to handle at TS. We try our best. We also have a psychologist that we refer them to if it's something that we cannot at the health level. So we refer them to our psychologists because we actually want people to know more about themselves, embrace themselves the way they are, embrace their sexuality, and know that there are answers to your questions, and we're here because we want to answer them for you.
You guys are doing such a very fantastic work at and it's so good that you're pointing that out. We've identified that there is a gap, and we need solutions to problems. And I think that's going to shift our attention to another part of the conversation around the resources that are available. I'm going to come to you, Judy. From experience, how can a queer person navigate their finding knowledge about sexual health and information, especially with us not having lots of resources?
Yeah. Okay. So for me, the first thing I had to do was unlearn a lot, because in the culture that we are in, you are taught as a girl from the age of you first belong to your parents, then you belong to a man. From your parents' house, you have to go to a man's house. So for me, that I'm a lesbian woman, that's not my reality. So I had to unlearn a lot that I was already learning. So I had to learn to read. So for me, my advice would be read. So for me, I had to read up on a lot because I realized that for me, I'm a sexual person. So, and there's this shame and stigma around it. So for a lot of people, they hide that part of themselves. And navigating it as a queer person is like way harder. So for me, I had to learn to read a lot of books. I went online. Google is your friend. Because when you're speaking to a friend or there's somebody in front of you, there might be some questions that you might feel ashamed to ask, but Google will not judge you. So ask. If you go on Google, you can ask anything. Am I a pervert? Am I this? What kind of sexual being am I? And then you see a questionnaire that you can answer that can give you an insight into the kind of person that you are. What kind of sexual being am I? So for me, I feel like a lot of people need to go online and read more. Understand yourself first before you can explain it to people. So I feel like people need to learn to read more.
So I actually like the fact that you're asking us to read more. But then we know that the internet is also a very scary place.
Yeah.
There are a lot of information that we can find. The question now is, how exactly do I know that this is the right information? Are there certain strategies that this is where I can get reliable information? Or Desi, I know that the other time you mentioned something about trying to also read again and coming from a religious household, trying to find a fit. When you found resources and information on the internet, what were you looking out for to ensure that that was good information to consume?
Okay, for me, I had to look for resources that's related to myself as a person, because it starts from accepting that, this is who I am, so I need to do everything to protect myself. So I made sure the resources that I was looking for were resources that were beneficial to me as a sexual person and also a queer person as well.
That's really fantastic. And I think I'm going to jump back to Leila, because the other time you had mentioned about the Initiative for Equal Rights and the work that you do with especially queer people. That's a platform where people can find information. Can you just let us in on some of the things that you do at TIAS so that people who want resources and information can be able to reach out?
Okay, so if you follow us on our social media handles, we usually put out information there for different topics. We've put out topics about all the sexual needs and the diseases that are prominent in the queer community and how to protect yourself and how to. So those are some of the ways we do it. Then, every last Friday, we usually have an open house where we bring people together to talk about the need of the community, to share information about what the community is going through and how we can help as an organization. But we also have weekends. You can come in Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday. You can come in to ask any question you have, to get more information. You can speak with the doctor, or you can speak with our psychologist if that's what you want. So actually have resources available that will try as much as possible to get out there. We also have a Twitter space where our communication department on a weekly basis have a gathering so that with a topic to discuss with the queer community.
That's really fantastic. It's a whole lot of information out there
Yeah.
is providing. So I just wanted to say, I wanted to ask you when you were saying about the open house thing, do you also share refreshments?
When you come, you fight.
All right, then. You see me there on that Friday. I'm still going to circle back to you, Judy. Yeah? You had mentioned that you had sisters and it was so easy for you to like blend in and learn a thing or two about yourself. Let's just spend a hypothetical scenario, yeah, where a young person who is trying to understand themselves and their sexual health needs. How do you think that because parents, educators, children spend a lot of time in school, educators and also their peers are present. How do you think that they can be more forthcoming in terms of helping these people? How can parents show up and show out? How can educators do the same thing as well?
Okay. I would always say that I'm very privileged. I grew up in a space that allowed me to speak, not to my mother though, because she's really old school. Mom is really old school. But my sisters, I was lucky to grow up with sisters that I think I'm the 7th child and I have like really older sisters. So for me, I was really lucky. So I'm trying to picture a world where I don't have my sisters to speak to about things that probably happened to me. And even in me trying to understand my sexuality and things that happened along the line, I'm wondering how my life would have turned out. So it's a really big gap. And I wish that people really, because we grew up in a society where things like sex is hush-hush. They don't believe that it's not something to be enjoyed. It's something for the man. So you as a woman, you're doing it for the man. So what are you learning? Lay there, let him do his thing, and you go. Right is the right of the man. So for somebody like me that had the opportunity to speak with my sisters about it, or even be in the room where they are speaking about it and me learning from that, I know I'm really privileged. So I wish that a lot of, like, especially when it comes to the curriculum in schools, because like you said, children spend a lot of time in schools and with their parents. So I wish in schools, because talking about biology, right? Even in classes where we're doing biology subjects, the day they taught about body autonomy and your private parts, they didn't give them names. They'll say the female private parts, the male private parts.
Some will share with us.
Yeah, so like there's this thing about giving it an actual name. It's like it's taboo. So I wish that when they teach it in schools, they would know that it's as important as you're teaching a child calculus or agriculture. These are topics that they need to learn. It's not just for their pleasure. It's because it's an information that they need. So I wish in schools they would incorporate it more, and it's be not such a taboo for you to say, oh, this is your vagina, this is your penis, this is what it's used for, right? So I wish in schools they would incorporate more of those topics in their biology subjects. And I wish parents would be more receptive to actually sitting their children and not saying, don't let a boy hold your hand. If they hold your, because that's the first information I got. If they hold your hand, you are pregnant. If they see your pants, you are pregnant. So in my head, when I was younger, I thought I was pregnant like 10 times, because now I was crossing the road, the breeze carried my dress, and came home and I was crying and I thought I was pregnant, because that was the first thing they told me. If they see your pants, you're pregnant.
That's the end of the road for you.
My dear, I thought my life was done. My life was over. I was 10 and pregnant. How was I going to live life? Right? So I wish a lot more parents would actually see those conversations as a necessity and not just a hush-hush taboo thing.
All right, Judy, thank you so much. I'm going to come to you, Desi, because you mentioned the other time about your parents and growing up in a very religious household. In the perfect world, how would you want things to be different?
Oh, okay. In the perfect world, I would say that I would have loved my parents to be more open about conversations relating to sex, and not just because I think I would agree with Judith, because I had sisters as well who they would tell them that if you they said that if they see your my own was, my parents would tell my sister that if the boy looks at you a certain way, you get pregnant.
Yeah.
So you can get pregnant by psychic connection. So I was always like, so in the perfect world, I would say that I would love my parents to unlearn a lot of things and not attach secrecy to sex, because that's how they even got all of us in the first place.
Exactly.
So you actually have the right to even know about these things. And also, it should not just be about, a guy and a girl. You should be able to tell your children that there's also a guy and a guy and a girl and a girl. It's also a thing, and it happens, so that they are because I knew this from as a child. I knew that this was who I am, but the fact that I could not even explain it to them because of fear, made it look like, maybe there was something wrong with me, right? So I wish that our parents would unlearn a lot of things that they because of course it's to them, it's like the love they are showing to you as a child. They are being parents, so they need to unlearn some things and be able to educate their children more.
And I'm just thinking, as you were talking about, how a lot of these conversations happen from a very patriarchal perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Women are the ones that they're focusing their attention on, and it doesn't also even mean that they're giving them the right information at the end of the day. We're going to wrap this conversation very soon. At the end of the day, is all talk and nothing changes if we don't have actionable steps to follow. How exactly, and I'm going to start with you, Linda. Everybody's going to share their opinion on that, but I'm going to start with you. How exactly what actionable steps can we take as communities or as people to ensure that we have an inclusive curriculum in our schools? How exactly can us as communities and people, as parents, society generally, ensure that there is inclusive sexual health education? And I mean this in terms of both men and women, queer people, heterosexual people. How exactly can we advocate for this?
Okay. Sophie, one of the ways TES does this is when I have every last Friday of the month, we gather together on our Twitter space to discuss the queer human rights education. So this is just a space for people to come in to ask questions that they're confused about, or questions that they just want to know. And we as TES try our best to answer it for them, to point them to the right direction if you don't have the answers. And there are also, we also have a resource page on our website where information, whatever you need about the queer space, you get your information there, and whatever you need also from the sexual health wellness, you get the information there. So I feel like one of the ways we can do is to talk more. Yes, I know you say we'll be talking, but another way we can do is also to talk more. People need to know that, this sex is not a taboo topic. Sex is something we all as humans experience. So it's something we should talk about more, so that people start making a more good decision about their sexual health. Because most of the things we see in TES is that because of one wrong decision or because of not having information, they make a mistake that will actually cause maybe a lifelong illness or something. So by the time we talk more and people are more open to it, we begin to see a change in our community, in that everybody wants to discuss it. And once you don't know something, instead of just hiding in shame, you come out and you ask and you make a good decision about it.
Thank you very much, Linda. What I'm getting from this is, if the government or the curriculum is not giving us what we have, we need to focus on having more informal conversations. And that would actually very help. Alrighty then, I'm going to come to you, Judy. What actionable steps do we have to take as the people and society and communities to ensure that there is inclusive sexual health education?
Yes, so like Linda said, talking. Education starts from the house. So before your child leaves the house, gets to the age where they go out to speak with their peers, they first have their parents as their educators. So if a parent uses the right words for their children and make them comfortable to the point where they don't go outside and hear something different, like, that these are my private areas, this is what it's used for, this is when this would happen to me, the parents, I believe, should start up that conversation. Teach your children. So for you to be able to teach, you have to learn. So learn the right words, get the right information, and pass those informations to your children. No matter how small, they get it. You just think they don't, but they do.
Thank you so much, Judy. Odesi, over to you.
So I think that in our schools as well, there has to be some type of awareness to the curriculum, where so that the students are just after the conversations with your parents, you are also going to school, and you have access to understanding yourself as a human in biology classes, not just it's female reproductive system, and basic understanding of yourself as a person, so that it doesn't look like a topic that everybody's running away from. So there should be more awareness on the school curriculum, so students can have more access to sexual health education.
And that's like carrying out more advocacy to schools, to the Ministry of Education, because they have a lot of role to play in all of this.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for being here. It was really a very fun conversation. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Judy. And also thank you, Odesi. We've had one of the most fun conversations and also very informative here on this episode. For more information, do also visit the Initiative for Equal Rights.org or connect with Tears across all of their social media platforms at Tears Nigeria. This has been the SabiSRH podcast. My name is Feifei, and see you in the next episode.